Hi, welcome all. Welcome to Swabhiman's uh, December Jan issue. And today we'll be discussing a single motherhood. And we have Leila here from Village Banter. Leila, could you talk about yourself and your organization for a bit?
Sure. Hi, my name is Leila, and I am a lawyer by profession. I am from Kerala. I live in Bombay, live and work in Bombay. I founded the Village for Single Parents in 2019. It's been 3 years now. So now we are in the process of actually, we are already incorporated into a company. So we're going to become, hopefully an employment base, monetized base for single parents. Working on the nitty gritty of it now. Lots of work, so been a little busy. But thank you so much for reaching out. More than happy to be featured in your magazine.
No, we love interacting with organized such as yours because our focus is on because we believe like economics it is shaped by gender in a variety of ways, and of course single motherhood is an aspect that is not often looked upon, and it's great that your organization does such amazing work.
Thank
So
you.
how would you define this the concept of uh, quote unquote single motherhood? How do you think single motherhood at times differs from rural settings to urban settings, with class and with caste as well at times, and religion? How can they differ? Can you expand on that?
Um, I think from the last 3 years that I've been working with single parents, there is a huge differentiation. There is a huge differentiation when it comes to a rural setting and an urban setting. I wouldn't say that entitlement in any way takes away from the emotions attached to single parenthood, because I think that is uniform all across. Like I've seen single parents who are in the smaller cities, interacted in smaller villages, even in Hyderabad, Kerala, and states like that. Uh, and I've also interacted with single parents like myself who are working, or parents from richer entitled families. Of course, there is the only difference I think would be the comfort in the approachability aspect. You have access to better lawyers and stuff like that, but the underlying emotions, the emotions of lonelyhood, the estrangement from society, the financial hits that you have to take, the standard of living that is compromised because of single parenthood in a society like India is, I think, pretty much the same. I mean, as shocking as it seems, right? In my community right now, the WhatsApp community or the interactive community that we have mothers from all backgrounds, but they are all friends. There is no color, there is no race, there is no gender there. So I can see that they are more helpful. They don't look at all of that. But from eagle eye viewpoint that I have, I can tell you that the emotions attached are all the same. But the only point, as I said, would be the access to better lawyers, access to legal information, access to benefits. Maybe if you are in an abusive relationship, if you want to sort of run away, maybe in an urban setting like Bombay, Delhi, bigger cities, like even where I am in Kerala, you have more support, like people who take you in more easily, right? But in rural settings, the everybody knows everybody. I can remember I was actually on site in this village in Telugu, in Telangana actually, and the single mom was being abused, and everybody knew about it by the entire family for dowry, for a lot of things. And her child, she had a daughter who was about a year and a half old at the time, and she reached out to me and she said, "I cannot go anywhere because everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows I'm being abused. It's like everybody knows about. Like it's in this very small setting." So I think probably that is a big market difference that is there in an urban nuclear setting. Is you have some sort of privacy, you have the gap, the time to sort of pack your bags and run. But in a rural setting, maybe you don't have that, because everybody tries to intervene and tell you, stay for the kid, it's for the family, larger community, all of that. But I think the underlying emotions, the estrangement, the loneliness is the same. It's exactly the same.
I mean, parents are parents wherever they go, right?
At the end of the day, yeah, exactly, you said it. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
How does family function differ before and after separation in terms of like constitution and how that can affect a child? Because there's often this very negative
Yeah.
connotation
Yeah.
that somehow single parents are not able to fulfill the roles. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, not something I agree with, but that's a very wide arching
Yeah.
cultural connotation that's put onto us. And how does this in rural settings is there a presence of some kind of mutual support? How does this play into the economic vulnerability of rural single women? If
I
you can
think
expand on that.
single mothers, a lot of single mothers, maybe 90% of single mothers who are in India, they get married into a lot of fanfare, right? Like they graduate from their parents' home, straight into that is the whole dream, right? That they carry from childhood. So when that divorce happens, this whole dream is shattered, so to speak. And then now you're on your own. Now you have to figure things out on your own. Like I have moms who are as old as 40 who have to figure out even how to pay bills, how to do net banking. They were so wholly dependent on other figures in their household. So that changes. So the dependency, not I wouldn't call it dependency, but you automatically have the societal support when you're married, when you are normal or abiding by the rules and all of that of society. But a divorce is a huge deal breaker in Indian society. Once you get divorced, it's almost like people don't know what to do with you. There is no rule for what comes after a divorce. Like up until time of marriage, everybody is even willing to partake in negative criminal activities like dowry and things like that. But the second that comes into divorce and that becomes the cause of a divorce, even nobody knows what to do with it. So societally, there is a huge shift that happens when you are divorced, or I'm talking about divorce as a huge. There are other ways of being a single parent as well, but when you get into the legal system to end your marriage, it completely, people look at you differently, and your family even pulls back. Like I am estranged from large part of my family. I know many other single moms as well. When you say 100% support, I don't think I know even one single person who has carried on their life as is from before to after. It's very difficult. It changes at a cellular level your entire life. Financially, I think, because yes, it's a huge step down in your standard of living, because a lot of people, our mothers, are still dependent on the fathers to be the breadwinners, and it's almost a given that after marriage you are going to be at home taking care of children. So I would say even in the village, which is a very concentrated group, but yes, I would say about maybe 70% of the mothers have had to actually go back to work and figure things out financially, because there's a huge pullback in terms of taking care of the child, taking care of alimony, child support, month on month being paid, because there is no legal tracker for any of this. If 1 or 2 months the father says I can't pay, then there is nothing. You have no legal remedy in that. You cannot go to court and say, hey, this guy is not paying me. So you're screwed, right? So you have to always have a financial setup. You cannot depend on the system to support you financially. So it's very difficult, but I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's very, very difficult when maybe in a rural setting you would not have education, you would not have that sort of exposure, to bigger cities, to bigger large, to bigger working teams. Language could be a challenge for a lot of people in the rural areas. So yeah, it is different. It is a huge hit. Your entire life changes, and it's in a way that you cannot even imagine, right? So is there government support? Is there societal support? No, absolutely not. There is no support. I would say a lot of people are trying, but there still is, as you said, it's very difficult to escape the stereotype. Even for people who are giving support, NGOs or foundations, unless you've gone through the rigmarole of being a single parent, I don't think you can be. I don't think you'll ever be able to provide the kind of support that you need, because it is all across. It's not one aspect that is affected. It's everything that is affected in your life, plus your child, right? Like I've known mothers who have to take children out of school because they can't afford it, and they've had to put children in smaller schools, or maybe even sit at home for a couple of years because you can't afford an education. These are women in big cities, right? Because they would depend on their husbands, and as whatever revenge or whatever you want to call it, children suffer for that. So it affects your entire familial structure as well, for generations, even I would say. Like now for me, even to restructure family and restructure role modeling, it's going to be very hard. But it's, I'm not saying that there's a solution for any of this. You just try to make it work.
uh, we'll get back to this because you raise a very interesting point here. But how, moving on to another question, how do single mothers cope with the change in Indian society? What is the mindset of Indian society regarding single mothers? Like rehabilitation, you start on this. Can you elaborate on the
Rehabilitation, yeah. I hear you.
I'm so
It's okay.
sorry.
I know, tongue twister types. Yeah.
Yeah, too many letters, too many syllables. Yeah, but about this aspect of
Yeah.
single motherhood at times, and if you could, especially as a lawyer, how do you think the presence of a stronger system from the side of the government and a stronger structure, how can that help us get out of the stigma
That is
associated with single
ultimately the
parents?
only thing that will have. I've always said this, that the only thing that will have long reaching and sustainable support, like if you can envision it like 10, 15, or even 100 years into the future, is only if the government steps in. Like, see, what I'm doing with the village, I cannot say that it will be carried on after my time, right? It's not something that is going to have an impact or a legacy. I don't know. That is not guaranteed. But a government is something that has far-reaching impact. So a government is the only structure that can put in place a rehabilitation centers, or understanding or laws in place which will kind of make it compulsory to rehabilitate single mothers. Right now it's just volunteers, people who are helping out. Like I have people in the village who will help you. You can come stay at my place if you're in the same city, for example. That is a very voluntary and not a very sustainable model. It can continue. How long can you house a person and their child? It's not it's not possible to, when you're also financially and on the wrong side and you have to house someone else. So the government is able to set up houses or homes, or NGOs are able to take in mothers without judgment. There are, I'm not saying there are no NGOs and foundations, but there's a lot of questioning that comes with that. There's a lot of judgment that comes with that. There's a lot of backlash which comes with taking mothers and children on board. So I think government has to step in.
And the resources for NGOs are limited.
That's what I'm saying.
They're
The
limited
government is
resources.
working on tax-paying money, right? See, ultimately that is the problem. See, in other countries, like developed countries, like whatever have you, in European countries or USA, UK, Canada, all these countries, they have benefits for single parents. This is from taxpayers' money. So that again is the sentiment of the people are okay with paying that, because people have that sort of empathy and understand that okay, she is on one income, she's taking care of a child. That natural empathy is there. But sorry to say, but in India, it's not there. That empathy towards single parents is not there at all. It's almost as though I've had people tell me, you asked for it. Nobody asked you to get a divorce. Nobody asked you to leave your husband. I mean, okay, what about the bad marriage, right? No, that doesn't matter. We are all tolerating our husbands. We're all tolerating our in-laws. So you tolerate it. I mean, so that aspect of it is not understood by a lot of people in India. I would say 100% people don't understand that. Very few people have the empathy or the space within them, or the compassion to understand that okay, she really is struggling, or she needs help, or I need to make a louder voice about this. Like if I tell other mothers who are married and within the system of marriage, they'll say, oh, we are also single parents. Because I said, no, you're not a single parent. But I think essentially the problem in India is that a lot of Indian mothers consider themselves as in single parents, because they're taking care of the children, they're taking care of, they're taking on the bulk of parenting. But that is not the definition of single parenting. It's not.
It's interesting how every problem in India comes back down to the fact that we accept unhealthy relationships constantly,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
we persecute those who don't.
Don't.
And
Yeah.
I'm into economics and sociology, and my research, I did research recently on gender based
Mm-hmm.
care in the household.
Mm.
Women spend 5.5 hours in India compared to men's 19 minutes. We're constantly promoting and continuing. This is ILO data. This is
Yeah.
International Labour Organization data.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
cannot be questioned.
Yeah.
Women
No.
are constantly being asked to pay and contribute this much to their
Yeah.
children's lives,
Yeah.
then have an income, then support them when they're trying to build healthy lives. It's
Yeah.
insane. It's
It's insane.
insane.
And men have no accountability in the legal system. I mean, when you talk to people, they're going to be a lot of men. A majority of the men will actually tell you, oh, she's just trying to rob me. She's just trying to get money out of me. Like, it's your child. If you were still married, you would pay for school, you would pay for essentials, you would pay rent. Why does that change once you get a divorce? Why are you expecting a mother who is, and wage disparity is a reality in India. The gap is massive. So you're expecting a mother who is earning 10 times lesser than what you're earning to take care of rent, essentials, school, extracurriculars, health, all of that, and you're paying a minimum of what, 10,000, 20,000 is what the court mandates. What does 10,000, 20,000 cover? You understand? So there is no balance within the legal system either. So women take the bulk. I'm telling you, this is a reality. After a divorce, that is why majority of women stay in abusive relationships, because they know the reality. If you get a divorce, then you are struck out automatically. It's like it's your fault. So I mean, I can tell you from my own experience, I'm taking up 80% of the expenses of my child and my own expenses, which is okay. I have a job. I mean, I do have a problem with it, but I'm not going to go back and fight for it and all of that. But I am, because I have a job, because I have, the village and all of that, I'm okay. But there are mothers who are still yet starting out, and they're earning maybe 20,000, 30,000. Out of that, they have to educate the child, they have to feed the child, they have to house the child and themselves, right? So at what cost? You're leaving an abusive relationship, but at what cost? It's almost like women have to pay the larger cost of leaving an abusive relationship, and it's very unfair. Very, very
So
unfortunate.
abusive relationship isn't penalized, but divorces.
Yeah,
It's it's it
you said
constantly we think about these things. Yeah, we
that's
see
exactly.
abuse in our families and we approve of. We're supposed to approve of it because elders do.
Yeah, exactly. In a society, people will not really live, and all of that. I think that whole mindset is going to be a huge uphill task for single parents um, to achieve any of that. That's why, I mean, even with the village, we're just trying to change mindsets, individual mindsets, changing the government, changing. Very early on, I understood that that's going to be almost impossible. So let's just start changing one person at a time. So that's it. Rehabilitate one single parent at a time. That's it. If you can change one home at one time, that's it. And we cannot even dream of changing the government and demanding changes, and because the understanding is not there, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, please continue.
What difficulties do single mothers face in maintaining that livelihood, especially in terms of their professions? How do you think the idea of heterosexual marriages and patriarchal ideas create barriers for single mothers?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think, especially in the workforce, like again, this is something that I've looked upon. So, as per Indian data, women are nowhere in the workforce. They account for 20% out of like all of the female population, and 20% are working.
Yeah.
There are constant and consistent barriers for them to enter into the workforce.
Yeah. 100%.
So, how does that play in when it comes to single motherhood?
No, there is a huge employment gap, huge employment bias. Like even for me, I've been working for 10, 15 years now, steady, good work experience. But all of that comes into question when you go for interviews. Like I have been interviewed in India for many, many organizations. All of them have a big issue that one of them actually asked me, if you're not able to manage your private life, if you're not able to manage your marriage and that fell apart, how can we expect you to take a responsibility of your job? And I was like, you know what, even if you give me this job on a platter, I don't want it. I just cut the call and left. So but that again, there's a huge employment bias. I'll tell you why. Because if a single mom has to get back to work, she has to have flexible work timings. You cannot expect me to work, sit glued to a desk 9 to 5. I cannot do that. There are going to be emergencies. Maybe I don't have help at home. I actually don't. So I have to get back home, get back to school, pick up my child, feed him, dress him, all that stuff. I have to do that simultaneously, balance all of this. Now 90% of organizations do not have the compassion or the empathy to understand that. Maybe you reach the last stage of the interview, and then you tell them, they ask you, who are your dependents? You tell them, I have a child or two depending on me. Or why is that? Why is the father? I'm a single parent. Finish. Then they will just end your application there. They're like, no, we cannot support that. We need someone who is focused on the job, who will do the job. Even if you have like 10, 20 years of experience behind you, but I was doing my job 10 20 years. This is something I can do, like with the back on a, like this. This is something that I've been doing. I'm an expert on this. No, doesn't matter. You will be pulled by your children. And I'm saying, even if I was married, if I hypothetically assume I'm still married, I would still have to go take care of my children, right? Who's going to take care of my children then? But it's somehow different if I have a husband. So there is a huge employment bias, huge gap in terms of understanding that women need to be rehabilitated, and the companies and corporates can afford to give that flexibility, but they simply won't, because that would mean changing policies. That would mean understanding the emotions of a whole other set of people. Like I have been told by one of the very, very large groups, okay, actually told me that if we give you flexible timings, then I'll have to give everybody else flexible timings. Either why the hell do you have to give everybody else flexible timings? I'm a single parent. If you have another single parent, then of course please give them flexible timings. Why do you have to give everybody, right? So that understanding is very skewed to begin with. So make your policies friendly, make your policies, family friendly, single parent friendly, or disabled friendly. To get into all of that, I don't think corporates are even getting into that. HR doesn't take the initiative. There is no DEI set up in any organization, diversity and inclusion, set up in any organization. So it is very, very, very difficult. So in the village, what we're doing is we do have single parents who are working. So what we do is we have a job board. So we all post jobs, vacancies, which we have in our organization, and we refer single parents to jobs. That's the least, that's the minimum we can do. But the change has to come from within corporates. It's a very, very, very huge ask, because they're very tied to their ways. A lot of mothers will, ultimately it's a choice you have to make, right? You have money, you need money. So what do? Then your child is the one that pays the price for it. Children will stay alone at home for hours and hours till the mother comes back from work, sometimes unfed, sometimes unclothed, unbathed. Look, everybody cannot afford childcare. I've had to leave my child alone at home for hours. He's 7 years old. Understand? So if corporates cannot extend their compassion to an employee and by effect to their child, then it's not my problem. It is a corporate problem. But I am the one who's paying the price for it, is what I'm saying. Because of the societal lack of
Of course.
compassion and a corporate lack of compassion, it's always the person who's paying the price for that, and by effect the child as well. So yeah, so the gap is massive, and I don't see that being covered. That's why a lot of single parents have migrated. They leave. Like, even if you have to go to other countries and struggle there, they know that the struggle is going to be short lived. It's not going to be a lifelong thing. But in India, it's something that is perpetuated. It just goes on and on. There's no end to it. Like, I have single parents who are like 50, 60, and they've been single parents since they were 40. They're like, I don't even know where the time went. They're unmarried, they haven't dated in 40 years. Like, why did you stay single for so long? She's like, I don't even know. Like, when you like pinpoint and tell me I've been single for 40 years, I don't know why I've been single for 40 years. The time just flew in taking care of my child, then working towards paying for their marriage and everything, education, then paying that off. Just it's just been a constant run. So you forget your own life to raise a child, which is not fair. Ultimately, you're a human being as well, right? You have to, but in India you have to compromise one thing or the other. You are not allowed societally, or from a corporate perspective, to take care of your own interests. You're not an individual, you're a corporate slave. It is a fact, unfortunately. So yeah.
Yeah. So can we go into, considering your background in law, can you go a bit into what kind of laws are present that kind of try to protect single mothers, and how can we improve on specifically the legal aspect, and not just from help from the government side, but in form of welfare schemes and everything, but specifically in terms of law, and how do they function, and how do they aim to protect women, if they do?
No, I don't think so. I've been doing this for 3 years now. I don't think there's any law that is specifically engineered towards supporting single parents. Like, if you're even telling me if you go for a divorce, we can start from there. There is no knowledge on what your rights are. The basic education that people need, right? Like, a person like, okay, me, I'm a lawyer, so I know what my rights are, and I will at least know what to research, who to research, and how to ask and who to ask. Lay people who have no background in law, they are lost. And I know many people who are staying married because, like, yeah, I don't want to get into that whole legal thing. There is no, if not, no basic knowledge. Also, there is no resource field where people can get this information, right? So, where, like, if you, and even to decide what kind of divorce you're going for, is it going to be mutual contested? Once you get into mutual, it's, these are all, they say this is 6 months, but it is very time consuming. So, in place of doing that, what the legal system can do is make this a little bit more time efficient or time friendly, so that, because people have to take leave from work, people have to spend so much money, and mothers simply do not have the luxury of having that much time or money. No place to leave their children, go to courts, and then get an order to come back after 6 months. There's no certainty in the law. When there is proof of abuse, there is proof of this marriage not working out, then courts should not get too much into it, or get too much into it, but don't waste years and years over it. Like, I know people have gotten divorced after 7 years of just running around and all of that, manipulating the judges, manipulating the lawyers, and all of that. So maybe pull that in a little bit, right? When people are saying that this is my reality, I am going to become a single parent, maybe have a little bit compassion towards that, and make it a little time effective, make it a little cost effective as well, which is not happening. So I think that is basically what needs to be corrected. Forget about laws in place or whatever. We are okay with that. They're saying that there are maintenance alimony, all of that, but to get that maintenance alimony, there is no guarantee of that either. Tomorrow, if the father says I cannot pay, there is no remedy for me to go back to court and say father has not paid in 1 month or 2 months, as it is there in other countries. Like, it's a tax cut. In other countries, there is an impact on the income and the taxes of the father. If they don't pay, left, they have to back pay. Like, if I have not paid for a year, fathers in other countries have to pay the entire amount that they have missed. In India, there's nothing like that. So to tie it into the income of the father or the mother, whoever is paying, I'm saying, let's not make it gender argument. Like, if it is, for example, hypothetically, the father who's paying child support, tie it to their income. Tied to their income, give them tax benefits out of that for paying out to their mothers, whatever, make it sense, make it make sense. But don't deprive a child of their livelihood because the father does not want to pay child support because of some revenge mode that he is on with the mother. That is almost always what it is. Then they will claim bankruptcy. How can they claim bankruptcy? A father who is working, suddenly in the middle of maintenance support hearings, he will claim bankruptcy. So get a little bit into that. Press upon child support until the child is 18. There is no such law or practice in place. So I'm saying the whole thing has to be restructured. I don't want any laws. I just want people to say that this is the child's life, make it child focused, take the adults out of it, and only for the benefit of the child. So once we do that, all of this kitsch, all of this argumentative thing that keeps going on and on will, I think, phase out. Because ultimately, if the focus is on the child, and the child, any normal child who is growing up needs this X amount of money to at least till 18 years of age, both the parents work towards making that happen, put it into a common fund or whatever. I'm saying that could work. That is what is happening in other countries as well. Like that money automatically goes into the child's account, doesn't go to the mother. Like a lot of fathers have an issue with sending the money to the mother. They'll be like, oh, I don't want to send her money. She's probably spending on something else. Fair enough. Then create an account for a child. So there are ways that we can, but I don't think that Indians, from what I've seen in the last 3 years, are all very immature, very childlike mentality. We don't want to emancipate from that. So I think that is where a majority of the problem lies. Like the legal system is in a very infant state of thinking still. I wouldn't say infant, I would say fetal. Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of, I think infants think better than that. Fetal, very
Yeah,
fetal. Yeah.
somehow revenge take precedence over the child's welfare.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean,
Yes.
the focus is taken away entirely from the welfare of the child. So, that I think needs to be understood a little bit. I don't think it will be realistically. I don't think anybody is going to get into that, but that would help single mothers a lot if there is an assurity that the money will come in. Because see, let's call it a spade a spade. Money is very important. Every human being needs money to raise a child. It's times are not good. There is huge inflation going on right now. There is no a lot of financial hits. So if you are expected to take care of another human being, which who would normally be raised if we were still married, then that lifestyle should continue as it is. So the court should press upon that, which is not being done. So that is my only bone with the legal system.
A different question, but so in India, how well is co-parenting being taken out?
Not at all.
Because with
Yeah,
separated parents,
yeah.
not at all. Like
Co-parenting
us assuring visitation.
it's not a legal thing. It is a legal. The law cannot press upon co-parenting. It's a choice that parents make. A lot of parents obviously do not get along or do not want to get along. A lot of people will say that only people who had a good divorce can co-parent. No divorce is good. Every divorce is acrimonious in its own ways. So like for me, my divorce was very was mutual, but it obviously was not easy. We took years. I took years to recover from that. But we are co-parenting. Again, the focus was the child. I took it away from myself. I healed myself separately from my child's well-being. Focus was only him, which is the only way that you can co-parent. You need to have an understanding of boundaries. You need to have an understanding of the other person, a little bit of empathy towards the other parent as well, which frankly is not there at all, because even parents are a huge factor in a divorce. In India, sometimes parents are the ones who are paying for the legal proceedings, so they are the ones who call the shots. So when parents are calling the shots, they'll say, no, we're not going to give visitation to the father, we're not going to talk to the father, we're not going to give anything to the father. So the mother has no say over there, even if maybe she wants to. So a lot of things are impacted because a lot of other factors. So I don't think co-parenting is very encouraged. It, in fact, even within the community, it's looked upon as a very rich people or an entitled position to be in. So it's not, I don't think, I've not seen many people who are able to reconcile their own grief and co-parent. But I'm saying it's co-parenting, which in a sense means the child's welfare. It has nothing to do with the adults in the picture. So if you're able to overcome yourself, make your child the north star of your relationship as parents, and just move from there, that is the only way. And in India we don't have that. In India, it's marriage in itself is happening for very different reasons. So it's going to be a huge mindset shift, is what I'm saying, which is very difficult to attain at this point. Just 1 minute. Huh? Sorry, I lost you there. I didn't hear anything you said. Hello?
No, hi, am I audible now?
Yes, you are audible now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think my internet is going bad. No, I
Yeah.
was just saying anything else you'd like to add to the discussion. Uh, anything that we missed that you think should be included as part of this conversation at large?
I think, as I said, as I mentioned earlier, the reaching the government, reaching the legal system, these are all, old mountains in the game. Changing that or moving these mountains is going to be very difficult at this point. So, I mean, we are at a very infant stage right now. Every other country, developed country, if you're looking at developed countries and the benefits, they have fought massive battles to reach there. So I think now we have to take those baby steps towards that, and that, you know, people who are not single parents have to support that, understand that, and come from a place of compassion. Like if you have friends, if you have people in your surroundings, people who are in abusive relationships, who want to get divorced, connect them to people within your network. If you have lawyers, see, this cannot be one alone. It has to be a community support. It has to come with community support. So people like yourself, young people who are studying these things, who are putting out the word, speaking the language of single parents of the village, this, you can little bit, I've seen people who are children, young children who are in college or whatever, who are having more empathy and more compassion than people in the government. People are sitting on mounds and mounds of money who can make change. So I think that mindset shift has happened for me. I don't expect anything from the legal system or the government. It's people like us, people like you and me, who are understanding, who are deep diving into the conversations to really understand who can create that change. So help people around you, not just single parents who are standing on the peak of single parenting, like it's there in their future, who are going through divorce, who are going through a difficult relationship. So help them out, create a network where you have lawyers, create a network where you have NGOs. Just casually just talk to people, make that your life's goal, I would say, so you can help more people that who don't feel like they have to stay in abusive relationships, right? So for me, that is the only thing that I say, is that step up and be there. That is the only way that this regressive mindset will change, is if more and more people step up and say, well, this is wrong and I'm not going to support this, or turn a blind eye when it's happening in my own family. So if you have like cousins, friends, sisters in your family who are just, are tolerating something which they shouldn't, have that conversation, have the courage, or the bravery to have that conversation. That's what I would like to leave you with. Anything else that you would like to?
No, thank you. Thank you for the very enlightening conversation. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. No
And yeah.
problem. Anytime.